that. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, that's kind of full life in Star Wars Adventures. I don't know if you have had anything else that you want to discuss, but that's a lot.
I think that's plenty. Let's dive into all our hot, fresh donuts and news.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, we had some real fun headlines we're going to get to in a second, but this one kind of emerged Monday morning, which is when we record the News and Cues episodes here at ForceCenter to pull back that curtain. And LESLYE Headland was interviewed by Frankie on Fantastic Frankie, a site and a brand that's on YouTube a little smaller. She's got a pretty good Instagram presence, but I bet after this, she'll have some more attention and well-deserved. A great interview, Joseph. And you and I kind of, I'm sure, took notes here. We probably have little similar things we gravitated to. But let's just dive in what we thought of this interview, because it wasn't just, and I'll start here. A lot of times when you see, hey, so-and-so was on this podcast and they talked about Star Wars. We Ewan McGregor. This happens 3 or 4 times a month. It's Ewan McGregor. And you go to the interview and there's a great 2 minutes about them talking about Obi-Wan's robe. I thought maybe with this would be the case. Well, about the 20-minute mark into this overall, I think 45-minute interview, no, they start talking about Star Wars, and they really do spend a lot of time because you can see the joy and love for Star Wars just kind of pouring out of LESLYE Headland. So, Joseph, let's dive in. Where did you gravitate to first and stuff that was covered?
Yeah, so I think I saw some tweets. Somebody tweeted at us early this morning, which I always appreciate when people are excited about Star Wars news and want us to see it. And I scrolled through some of those tweets, saw some of the other tweets, and it was so great to just see it all in context, because I think there are some great LESLYE Headland was very careful about what she can and can't say about this project right now, but she said some stuff that's just really intriguing for us to have fun speculating responsibly about what the series might be like. So there's some great stuff about that. But then I think just seeing who this creator is and what her perspective is as a fan, as a creator, her journey through Star Wars, because I think about that a lot. I think that the new Star Wars is formed a lot by what the creator experienced and loved at different points in their fandom. So it was great to see and hear that. I am a big fan of Russian Doll that she worked on and was, co-responsible for as a creator with Natasha Lyonne. But this was the first time that I don't think I've watched a lot of interviews with her. So I think one of the big picture headlines for me is to just see that she was such a great mix of incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly thorough, incredibly excited, very clear on herself what it means to be a fan, but also being really mindful of being inclusive to all other kinds of fandoms, expressing this view of Star Wars that I really agree with, of saying it is really real respect for George Lucas and the canon and the lore, and even referring to Star Wars as a religion. That's something that must be respected, but also must evolve, and having a sense of humor about it, and describing her show as a tent revival of, this is this new little part of this amazing tradition that I'm adding on to, and come on in. And if you enjoy it, awesome. If you don't, there are several other tent revivals over there in all these Disney Plus shows. So it was this joy of seeing who she is as a person, as a creator. Thoughtful, charming, funny, excited, inclusive in the most inclusive version of the word inclusive, and then also getting these great hints for what her show might be like.
Yeah, a lot there. You're so right. The thing that I really, really took away from this interview, just her as a Star Wars fan. She mentioned she was born in 1980 and kind of grew up in that era that is, our era, roughly. You and I, a little more gray at our beards there, yeah, but roughly the same era. So she experienced the same things that we did. And I love some of the stuff. Man, she's just really smart. And I say smart because she's in this community. She watches videos. She mentions, I'm sure we both jotted down. She mentions she watches our buddies Alex and Molly at Star Wars Explained, the canon update videos. And that's really cool just to hear their name kind of checked in this. But she's so smart because she very clearly, she's taken her perspective, her experiences, and her convictions into this Star Wars world. But she very much, you can tell, realizes, Joseph, who she's speaking to. Just a wide variety of people on the internet. And I'm sure many will just ignore all of her olive branches, if you will, to all listening, that where she says, hey, yes, this is a female led series, but the story is not just for women. And hey, she told the story of I grew up not really knowing of that there was like Star Wars RPG games, but I understand that those that played it, mostly the young men who were coming into their own and discovering themselves and who they were. I know they needed what they felt was a safe space. I just wanted that too. She is saying all the right things to me. I'd vote for her, is what I'm saying. And I took that away from this interview more than anything. And then there's so many other great things she talked about just in terms of creating Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think that's what I meant by like the most inclusive of inclusive of saying like, hey, I relate to Luke, I relate to Mando. Anybody can relate to any protagonist, while also saying, yeah, I'm bringing in my perspective, and it is the main character, the protagonist, is a woman. So yes, there is that, but it's still also anybody can relate to anything, while also having a special affinity if it is something that hasn't had as much representation. That's just such a great perspective. And I felt very spoken to say like, yeah, boys go through awkward times too. And like, I understand that, at times, maybe if you're going through puberty and people are going to make fun of you, maybe you just want to close a door and play your RPG in a safe space. That is a real attempt to be as inclusive as possible. And I thought it was really interesting that she talked about her journey of being an original trilogy, I would imagine on VHS, given her general age, of experiencing the original trilogy, reading Timothy's on Heir to Empire stuff early on, but then kind of coming back into being into Star Wars from the fandom, from looking at theories on YouTube to looking at, I think she was kind of implying fan fiction on YouTube. So that's really interesting to me too, that she not only has that perspective of, I know for myself that a part of the joy of this is the fandom. A part of the joy of this is creators create a Star Wars story, but then it takes on that level of myth and legend and pop culture reverence because fans, attach all these ideas and theories to it and kind of make it, even larger than what it starts as. So to know that she has that perspective, and that there's also, she name checked coming into YouTube, coming back to Star Wars around when YouTube was really growing in prominence and when Clone Wars was on the air. That's really interesting to me too, that she's not just, I grew up in the original trilogy and it really dominates my perspective the way I think Favreau is really honest about. She is somebody like, I love the original trilogy on VHS. And then I got into it in the late 2000s with the Clone Wars and with the YouTube fandom. That makes me really interested in seeing how is that going to translate to a new Star Wars story.
Yeah, how is that going to translate? Because she said, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but just that Star Wars can evolve as you do, as we grow up. And you and I have talked about that idea too of Star Wars. Star Wars is always there, but you're going to grow and change, and your interactions with it are going to grow and trade. Carl Weathers in Disney Gallery talking about Star Wars was saying things to me in my early 20s that I needed to hear, but I just wasn't listening, and it found me later, and I see the value of it later. Those are all kind of things, and for her to kind of be connected into that and have her finger on that pulse of what Star Wars is, and how she says she just very clearly values Star Wars community and wants it too, wants to watch an episode of Mandalorian and then go talk about it with someone, or go get a theory, or go get a canon update. She's in it, and you and I have talked too. Just we make our jokes. Jon Favreau is not necessarily in that, different era, different approach, and it works very well for him. And I don't lean either way. I don't necessarily just need it to be like Favreau, who's like, I don't know, what's a porg? Put in this. We joke about it, but there's some truth to that. But then I don't also crave every creator to be like, yeah, I watched 12 YouTube videos this morning, and I'm going to make a Star Wars story. But I love both when they're done right. And I just, every bit about her energy for what she feels about Star Wars just is making me feel more excited for this show and what she can bring to this franchise.
Yeah, and I really like that diversity and perspective from creators. When you have what you're talking about with Favreau and now with Leslie Headland, but then you have Tony Gilroy, who is like, he can't wait to tell you he's not a fan. Like, not that he dislikes it, but that he is not. It doesn't sound like you're ever going to hear him go, one of my favorite things about Star Wars is YouTube theories about the Clone Wars animated series, right? So it's a really different perspective. And I think that is valuable and interesting to have different approaches, even to being a fan of Star Wars from Star Wars creators.
I totally agree. Let's talk about a little bit what she said about the actual, her approach. Writing Russian Doll. She comes from a playwriting background, which you have an extensive amount of experience in that, Joseph. And you and I think we talked before about what that could mean for the series, and a lot of playwrights make wonderful transitions to movies, TV show. Few Good Men comes to mind with Sorkin, or not Sorkin, Mamet, right? No, Sorkin, right? God, I got my playwrights turned showrunner confused.
Dudes
So
who
she,
use a lot of words, yes.
dude, walk and talks. So I loved where she said she started the stories from "Where are you?" Like, no, literally, "Where are you in the galaxy?" Pulled out the complete Atlas book, and how she loves the Star Wars kind of universe. Literally, the Star Wars universe. That's a great starting point for me. And then what you can take from that, or what planet you're on, and what the people, or the cultures, or the economic situation, the political situations, the social situations on those Star Wars planets, how they can help form and guide your story. I loved hearing that. That was great stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of great stuff in her background. I'll say real quickly just about the playwright. I think one thing to think about, playwriting is, playwriting really focuses on a lot on the character and the word. You definitely can have big visuals in theater, but particularly if you're a smaller, scrappier, independent theater, it is not Shrek on ice. It's not about spectacle. It's about really making that live audience feel the truth, the terror, the fear, the joy of that character. And a lot of times, absolutely, you can be very visual in theater, but a lot of times it is words and it is characters. So knowing that she has that background, combined with what she was saying about her appreciation of Star Wars, that it works on multiple levels, that it has that sort of mythic quality of being, as she described it, pre-verbal. And this is really in line with things that Lucas has said, of her saying, I'm not discounting the great dialogue, the great music, but you could watch the original trilogy, or you could watch Mandalorian, and you could really sense and feel what is happening even without the words. But then you add the music and then you add the words and you go to this new level. That's really interesting to me, that she's somebody who has a background of an art that is kind of hyperverbal in playwriting, and Russian Doll is very hyperverbal. So that knowing that she has that perspective of both, of like, dialogue is really important, depth of character is really important, but also just telling the story in this very visual, very deep and intuitive way is a good way to tell Star Wars on screen. It makes me really excited for those things. And then to get to the Atlas, because I think that's maybe the big point of the fun Star Wars speculation of what is this show? What's it going to be about? Lucas has talked so much about in behind the scenes things about the anthropology. I remember one of the behind the scenes features for Revenge of the Sith, of him just talking a bunch about, like, what would a planet with sinkholes be? What would they think like? What would their technology be? If you lived in a sinkhole because you had to, or because you chose to, who does that make you? So that's a very Lucas, very early Star Wars idea. The picture of Luke's environment in A New Hope, of moisture evaporators and a farmer, and there's literally nothing to stare at but the horizon. And how does that affect you? To know that she's coming at it from that kind of deeper philosophical, cultural perspective, but also the nerdery of, like, look at my Atlas book. Which planets do I think are cool? Which planets do I think we haven't dived into their culture? So, how can I shape a story partially out of what the characters want, but partially out of which planets do they go to that we don't know enough about? Is this great combination to me of the depth of Star Wars and just like the fun of Star Wars.
Yeah, and we all appreciate those kind of worlds, whether they're brand new worlds we haven't seen before, or just something where we get to see a little bit more of, like you said, take that dive in. And we had heard before, in fact, earlier this week, get it up here, Slash Film, Peter Shreddy over there. No, he's over at Deadline, talking about, yeah, or maybe a Slash Film, doesn't matter. The more details, but really there's not more details. This is a female-centric Star Wars series, believed to be female-driven action thriller with martial arts elements set in a, quote, alternate timeline from the usual Star Wars universe. That's gone around a bit. It emerged again on November 6th this week. This particular just log line, if you will. I don't know if we necessarily gathered any more of what the show's going to be about specifically, but we can get a feel of what her approach is, Joseph. But one thing we want to discuss, you were saying that this idea of it being Indiana Jones, like, not necessarily true if you listen to this interview. Not necessarily wrong, but not necessarily true.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to say real quick is that alternate timeline thing, I think, has caused some confusion and consternation. And I do think Leslie Headland clarified that. She wasn't giving a direct response, but when she was asked about it on this great YouTube conversation, she specifically said that it happens in a pocket of universe and timeline we don't really know well. So I think the alternate timeline is getting people thinking like, we're going to plunge into the world between worlds. Is this the first Star Wars What If? And I think what is actually being said is it's going to be in planets that we haven't spent a lot of time on in a part of the existing timeline. So I think that's an important clarification for all of our responsible speculation.
Totally.
Yeah. In terms of the Indiana Jones things, I think I just saw one tweet saying that, it's going to be Indiana Jones inspired. And I don't think that's quite what she was saying. I think what she was saying in the interview is, and I have a little clarity of this for myself from having done, some pitches here in weird old Hollywood. She was saying she had a designer working with her on her pitch to Lucasfilm, and that in order for her to really illustrate the story, she had the designer draw some Indiana Jones map-like lines from planet to planet. So it absolutely could be Indiana Jones inspired. That, Indiana Jones and Star Wars definitely share some DNA for obvious reasons, the literal DNA of George Lucas. But what I really took from that, which I thought was really interesting and cool, is with her holding up the Atlas and then her basically literally saying, when I physically sat in the Lucasfilm office and pitched it, I pitched a narrative. I pitched, here's the characters, here's the world they start at, then these events happen and it causes them to go to this world. And that's really interesting to me, just to get some kind of insight into the machinery of all this, that she's not going in there going, just to pull something off the top of my head, I want to tell a story about the Night Sisters. She went in there and pitched a story. Now, it might have changed, it might evolve, but I think that's the significance of, like, I know the narrative shape of this thing that I want to do.
Yeah, and I, after this interview, like the idea of an Afra series, and she was going to do an Afra series, I was definitely, hearing those rumors, intrigued by that. Other possibilities of characters I've known. And I'd be happy for that. I'd be happy for any of it, quite frankly. I want an Afra series. You do too. I'd love a Ray Sloan series, all that stuff. I can roll out a list of names. I'd love to say this is a series about Infant's Nest. Let me stop before I just list every character. But I don't know if this makes sense, Joseph, but after hearing her talk a little bit, her approach, her love of the little details, she talks about small origin stories and locations, and that's what she would get on a monologue on during meetings with Lucasfilm people or anything like that. I want her just to, almost completely new, which is something rare for me, because I am cool. Is this another story set 7 years after Revenge of the Sith? Please give me more. I am that person. And maybe it's in that timeline, but this other pocket of the galaxy, I just want her to take what she knows and really introduce us to things and characters and places that we haven't seen before, haven't got to spend a lot of time in. And it could be an Infant's Nest or something like that. But all I'm saying is, I'm just excited. Her approach it's a very robust approach. One of my favorite words to say with a rolled R. If that makes sense. I'm just like, I hope, roll up your sleeves and go to take me to some place I've never been as a Star Wars fan. For her, it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I'm hearing is, I think eventually when the show comes out, whoever the protagonist is, whatever is motivating that character, if they fit into, one of our Star Wars archetypes, are they, a scavenger? Are they a scoundrel? Are they an anthropologist? Are they a bounty hunter? Are they a failed Jedi? Whatever it is, I think whoever that character is, there will probably be something really personal from Leslie Headland's perspective. But from what she's talking about right now, it's real, to me, tip of the iceberg stuff again, where she clearly saw on a YouTube theory or on an episode of Clone Wars, or she talked about reading comic books in the mid to late 2000s, or reading an atlas. I think there's some tip of the iceberg stuff where there's some planets or some characters that we've just skipped past, and an event has happened there, and there's something that's hooked her, and she's gone, wait a minute, I never knew that little detail about Alderaan. Maybe this is set 100 years before, A New Hope, and it's somebody from Alderaan because there's some little detail of Alderaan. Or maybe it's, the banking clan on Scipio. What? There's something there that fired my imagination, and I want to dive into that. I think that's what we're looking at in terms of, it's not any of this kind of laundry list of characters that we all legitimately want to see more of, but it's more that there's some little detail that fired her imagination in Star Wars, and she's going, I want to know more about that place. I want to know more about who those people are. Let's dive in there.
Yeah, and it's weird. And if for me, again, I am a cool. Does it have stormtroopers? And is someone trying to rebel against them? Please give me that. I know that's me. And then the ascendancy, I'm not so, I don't know. Even the High Republic, I'm like, sounds good, but it's 200 years before I like to hang out and party. I for some reason, just what you're saying, Joseph, it kind of ignited my imagination for what this could be, but I can't wait to find out what it is. And I think we got a great creator, a great storyteller in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it made me really, really extra excited. I was excited because I really like Russian Doll, but besides that, I didn't know much about the show, and this has got me really excited for another dish in the upcoming Star Wars buffet of Disney Plus.
Absolutely. We love that buffet. We will, on the YouTube version of this, I'll drop the link to the interview. Fantastic Frankie is the YouTube channel. She's just got a lot of great stuff. Just kind of was looking around. I'd never heard of her till this day. And that's another thing, too, of just finding another fun voice in the Star Wars and kind of pop culture community. It's part of the fun, too. So give her a follow or head over there, too. We'll drop the link so you can hear the interview for yourself if you haven't had the chance. Speaking of chances, Joseph, I hope everyone gives the Lego Holiday Special a chance. It's shaping up to be real fun. And we've talked about this even a couple weeks ago. We got a little more details, but now we got this cool trailer. I loved it. Yoda with Frank Oz actually doing kind of a night before Christmas kind of poem, a little holiday poem here. Love this trailer. You get a chance to watch it. And did you have favorite highlights?
Oh, yeah, there's so many things. Great fun. One big highlight for me is just continuing to get to see Rey with her yellow saber. I am so all about that yellow saber. I don't even care that it's Lego. I'm just happy to see Rey wielding that yellow saber. I really like that there's a one line, I'm paraphrasing, but of all the heroes gathering to celebrate, and it's all these characters on the Falcon, and Max Rebo is just there. It's like, welcome to the Resistance, Max Rebo. I didn't know that Max Rebo is a hero, so it's fun in this Lego world that he is. I think two jokes, or actually just one joke that I thought was great. I loved both Vader and Rey finding the child cute. That was a fun revelation. Seeing the child in Mando, and I think that's super funny. And then I really like just the how much of the fandom of Star Wars this contains. To see a trailer that has everything from a who shot first joke to a Kylo put on a shirt joke. It's like through humor connecting the decades of Star Wars.
Yeah, and look, I'll tell you, and I mean this in a good way. It had kind of that robot chicken kind of style, especially with the Emperor stuff. And I'm fine with it. Because I kind of love that stuff. I don't know. I'm a sucker for Palpatine ordering a sandwich. I don't know what it is. It's just speaks to some weird style of humor buried inside me. So there's that. There's highlight. One of the ones, the little tiny talk about things in the background. Just the quick shot of the off-world Jawa next to the Tatooine Jawa. Nice touch.
Nice.
Detail. I love the shot of Wookiees doing snow angels with BB-8. That's at the dream. But here's this. You and I talked about it a couple weeks ago. This is fun, and this is non-canon or canon adjacent at best. But this is the first time, quite frankly, that we're going to see Rey going forward in any way, shape, or form. Again, this is not canon. This is not what happens. But they're staying true to what it might be, because there's the line from Yoda that I really love, Joseph, where he says, "For Rey, adventure called, and she thought it would be fast, but there she found a key to the galaxy's past." I love that idea of Rey kind of saying, "Hey, great, cool, I got my yellow blade. We've won. What's next? Let's zoom, zoom, zoom." And similar, maybe even to Luke, of just like, no, 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 you need to go another direction with this. It's not what you think, and you maybe need to go past to learn how to go forward. Anything deep stuff for what I'm sure is going to be a fun, silly little movie.
Yeah, but I mean, given everything that they've said in that press release, that great quote you just read, I do think it's going to be it's not going to go like deep dive. I think it's going to be like the fun moral of Rey feels the responsibility of being the Jedi, being the defender of peace and justice throughout the galaxy, but also her great victory in the sequel trilogy is finding family and connection, and that's important too. And I think that's going to be Rey's story, and that's a great little story. That's a great little moral for Star Wars and for all of us.
Yeah. A lot of crossovers because of this key to the galaxy's past that she gets, which is going to be part of fun. You met Max Rebo on the Falcon and the Resistance. Love it. Love it. Any crossovers that you saw in this already that you love? And then which ones would you want to see in this one here or in a future Lego Star Wars movie that we could get into on this big of a level? Any ones that you want?
Oh, well, the one I like seeing is the old Han, young Han.
That was awesome.
That is great. Yeah, I think seeing Rey interact with Obi-Wan a little bit more, that would be great. I would love that. You know who actually I would love an Obi-Wan Maz Kanata scene, because I think I love Obi-Wan, but I think Obi-Wan can play a little fast and loose here and there with his perspective and what he's trying to accomplish, and I'd love to see him and Maz at the bar, and Maz just giving him grief.
God, that's a great one. Because I was thinking more silly stuff like, I don't know, put a battle droid on Hoth. Hilarious, Ken. Great. You're fired. But that one actually, I could have a whole episode. If they were to make this into a new series, a whole episode of Obi-Wan from another era. Because you could easily put them in the same time frame and time period, right? But no, I want the Maz we get in Force Awakens, and I want the Obi-Wan we see, in probably Attack of the Clones, when he's really like taking the time to drink.
Yeah, he's really taking the time to drink. Yeah, it was great to see the clone troopers too. And for myself, as a Star Wars fan, because I've lived with them for so long, I am very close to personally done with jokes about stormtroopers not being a great shot, because there have been many amazing jokes, but there are now so many. My one caveat is I would be more than happy to see clone troopers personally react, because that would make it fresh to me if clone troopers going, "Wait, you replaced us with this?"
That I like that. There's a quick shot of the pod race scene and a lightsaber fight on top of pods. I love that there. I love me the pod race. I would love to see like some crossover of like Rio Durant racing a pod, like getting the shot.
Yeah.
He's got the hands and feet for it.
Yeah. I hope they go to a Minoc roast. Yeah.
Yeah, on Ardinia. I think I love Rio Durant more than I realized over. I loved him from the beginning, and Favreau, I think, voices him in a very unique way. It's very Favreau and almost not in the galaxy at times, but it so is. And I don't know, I'm developing a stronger affinity for Rio in my old age here.
Yeah, that pronunciation of Wookiee. It's a thing of beauty.
It is. We've talked about this before, a little bit of remix, but seeing this trailer just kind of inspired me again. I just love what I saw. I can't wait to watch this. I know a lot of our fans, even over in the ForceCenter Discord, are just, the anticipation is really high for this holiday special. Having fun being a Star Wars fan. I mentioned how much I do like the Robot Chicken stuff overall, because it just comes from, to me, a place of being not even on the playground, but being in like college and making jokes with your friends about I always go to the Kevin Smith Clerks. It was the first time I had personally ever seen like publicly like someone, they talked about the contractors on the Death Star too. Like, oh wow, that's something my friend Joel did in high school. Like that's the kind of thing. So I do enjoy that kind of humor. Palpatine getting a Emperor of the Year mug type of thing. But having fun in Star Wars again is very valuable. And I'm already, we're not even really need to acknowledge it, but Rey fighting Vader and people having problems with that. Like, just man, I hope a large amount of people, Joseph, can just have some fun with what we're about to see.
No, I really agree. I think this is not a surprise. There doesn't need to be any articles, clickbait articles saying Disney does something weird and fun. This is something that already exists, right? The Lego games have always been this. There are multiple Lego series, including the Freemaker Adventures, where this Lego Star Wars style is established. And the point of it is the same point of Lego. It's play, it's fun, and what they do that I think is really interesting is they play, they have fun, they have the Emperor make jokes that he would never make in the actual movie. They have characters who can meet and be meta about themselves in a way they'd never be in the movies. It's a sense of play, but underneath it all, it always stays accurate to the characters and accurate to the themes. It's just a fun version of it.
A fun version of Star Wars. That's not a bad thing. And I can't wait. November 17th, Life Day. This will stream to us all. And yes, you better believe we'll be talking about it here on ForceCenter. Something we have talked about before is Solo, and the love of the movie Solo, the love of Alden Ehrenreich as Solo. Ron Howard sat down with the folks at Lights Camera Barstool and talked a little bit about the phenomenon of the love of Solo, the make Solo 2 happen with the Resistance broadcast folks and John Hoey, John Hoey. John, if you're listening, that was a legit mess up. John Hoey loving that movie and just the energy behind it, and Ron Howard talks about it, about the love for the characters and love for the movie, how good it is, though there is nothing planned at all. That you never know, Joseph. You never know in this day and age what that could lead to now. And that's different from 2 years ago. This was not something we could imagine 2 years ago, you know?
Right. Yeah. I like that Ron Howard was super clear in our world of what ifs and punditry. He made it super clear of there's nothing planned right now, but it's so great that people liked it so much. And yeah, a couple of years ago when it was the only way Solo 2 could happen is if another movie was deemed that it would be, financially successful. And it's what we want to take up the silver screen time in Star Wars is telling this story. But now knowing the possibilities of Disney Plus, yeah, something could happen soon. Something could happen in the next couple of years, and that's exciting.
One of the other things of this interview, Joseph, was Harrison Ford. Ron Howard acknowledged that, yes, he publicly praised Alden, but really liked what was going on here and even had, quote, more to say privately. We don't know the details of that. Looking back now, why do you, yeah, we've had these discussions too, but I really, knowing that Harrison as an actor's actor and gruff old Harrison really liked what Alden did and really was supportive, something again we've heard before. Why do we think Alden did a great job as Han Solo? I know not everyone thinks that, and we're not here to convince you if that's what you think and took from the movie. That's your path, and I want you on it. I want you on the path you want to be on. We think he did a great job. Looking back now, Joseph, what do you take from his performance as Solo?
Yeah, I think that he just captured Han Solo's soul for me. He captured the bravado, the desire for adventure, the desire to prove himself, but he also captured the good heart, that connection to anybody who is kind of being stepped on, anybody who is being left behind, anybody who is being bullied, that he has a good heart in general, but he particularly has a soft spot and a vulnerability to anybody who is being bullied, that he is just utterly full of charm and enthusiasm. And that charm and enthusiasm, always that kind of spark toward light and life and adventure and connection, is already in this movie, being damped down by pain, and he is, developing some of those emotional calluses. But at his heart, in his soul, it's the charm, the fun, the bravado, the feelings he doesn't want to deal with, all the things that make Han Solo, to me, Han Solo, he just really captured. And I think Harrison Ford, you said it great, being an actor's actor. We talked about level of fandoms and in generations. I don't think Harrison Ford knows that Greedo is a Rhodian. I think if he ever learned that, he'd try to forget it. I don't think he cares about those trappings. He cares, but he cares immensely about figuring out, this person is real. Han Solo is real. How do I make him real? How do I make this, mumbo jumbo science fiction stuff real? And coming back and saying, How do I make this father-son relationship real, and how do I give that realness to Adam Driver playing my son and this trauma that they're both going through? All of that devotion from Harrison Ford to what is real. I think the fact that Harrison Ford saw that in Alden is the same reason that I really like his performance. I think he found everything that is real about Han Solo.
Yeah, there is something. What Alden does, he finds. You talked about the being calloused, and he's not quite there. He has some Kira's motivation, kind of. Not saying that's on the surface, but he's all over the place. And I really love the moment when his face realizes that with the last name Solo, I am now who I feel I can be, and that's something else going forward. You and I've talked about actually loving the moment that he gets his name, which is not something that I thought I would. I was, when Uncle Bob let that slip at a shareholders meeting, I was like, please, no. They presented something to me that really worked. And Alden in that moment really sets Han on his journey. And it builds back to, I talk a lot about how, in Sir Alec Guinness's performance in A New Hope, there are things he does as an actor and pauses, not even words he says, but just pauses and looks and reactions that you can then connect with those little Indiana Jones kind of map strings that you can connect back to those moments and build out the emotional foundations of this character. I think what Harrison did in the moment where he's taken the money and running, he made some choices, and you got Chewie behind him, and I know what I'm doing. I think a lot of the Alden's performance can connect back to that. If it wasn't specifically built on that, I haven't heard him say that, obviously, but it's kind of built back to that moment. Because I had one time at a party, one of the only arguments, I probably had a little bit of sarsaparilla in me, and birthday cake for sure. Someone said, I don't like that movie because when we see Han in New Hope, he's a bad guy. And now this movie shows he's a good guy. And I was like, sir, you were wrong. You were wrong. Han was not a bad guy in A New Hope. That was the point. That what was there. And it's in that moment. He doesn't just like take the money, see a kid, middle finger. No, he gets it. He gets what's going on. He gets the big picture. He just can't commit himself. And where does that come from? That comes from stuff that Alden connected to emotionally, beyond just holding his hands on his hips like Harrison does, even more as Indiana Jones than Han Solo, and a lot of those kind of things. And he gets the vibe. It gets it really good. But I hear a lot of that was fine. Alden was great, but that wasn't Han Solo. No, it was Han Solo. It was Han Solo then, and I think it connects back to that specific moment for me. So yeah, we'll never know what Harrison sat down and said to Alden. It might have just been "Good job, kid," but it meant a lot.
Yeah, and it means a lot to me. So it's really cool to hear about.
Yeah. Final thought on this here, and I'm sure we'll come again. You and I did talk about the possibilities. Disney Plus changing the game. I mean, again, even the last year, the possibilities have changed. Now that Mando's out, and it's a success. At least season one, right? In a lot of ways, awards, critics praise, fan praise. It's subscription rates, whatever you want to say. It's that's changed even from what we thought in 2018. At this point, what do we think? I don't know. Would be realistic for them to do, them being Lucasfilm, Disney, with these characters, because it's a while. I don't know, and there's enough, not baggage, but there's enough about this movie that I don't think you could just simply say, "Here's Solo 2," even on Disney Plus. You'd have to find a different way to approach it. You and I have talked about Kira versus Maul. There's a lot of emphasis, blah blah blah. Oh, right now, what would you think they would even try to do?
I do think, since from everything that John Kasdan has tweeted, it feels like he has a solid outline for Solo 2, right? That he's tweeted sort of teasers about the Han and Kira, and I would imagine Lando as well, being implying, maybe I'm doing some inferring, but he's tweeted about the criminal syndicate wars, between the Pikes and the Hutts and Crimson Dawn, and you can see how everybody's threads, from Han to Kira to Lando, could be caught up in that, and that could be a great Solo 2. So knowing that he's got that ready, there's a part of me that holds a slight hope for maybe a year or two from now. Disney Plus does want to say, we want to experiment with, it's got to be a little bit smaller budget. You got to use the volume. But yeah, why not do a movie? We'll do a movie on Disney Plus. We want this movie to exist, and there's some fan clamor for it. but we don't want to, do it in the go out and buy a movie ticket version. So there's a slim hope from that of like, yeah, maybe Solo 2 could happen in that way. I do think that is a big hope, a big gamble. So the other thing that my mind would go to is, stripping out a couple of the themes or a couple of the threads. And the biggest one to me would be, I think, Kira versus Maul. We know that Maul ends up on Malachor somehow. I like the idea that Kira takes down Crimson Dawn. Kira takes him down. Obviously Emilia Clarke is a good big name, which helps a lot. And I think also we're seeing this hunger right now in some of the reaction to The Mandalorian for stories that really continue a story. We are really enjoying the Mandalorian episodes where he just has an adventure and it advances his character and the themes. But there are a lot of people, I think, who are really saying, I want storytelling that really connects to other storytelling. And Kira versus Maul really does connect to a lot of storytelling. So that one would seem like a good one to me. I'd be thrilled for a 6-episode limited series that's just Han and Chewie have an adventure. It doesn't reveal any great big canon. It doesn't tie back to anything else. I just love those characters, and I like watching them have adventures. But I understand that there is, some pushback against that right now of just an adventure for adventure's sake.
Yeah, I'm more starting to lean to that. Look, Kira Maul or anything, sign me up. I'm a big Emilia Clarke fan as well. So let's do it. Let's figure out that story. My 50th time mentioning Enfys Nest this podcast because I love that character. I love the potential of what we could learn from that character and what you could do with that character in the Cloud Riders. But what you just pitched too of just like, now could they go, hey, let's go smaller, and just like an old novel, an old Han Solo novel, we're just going to go on some crazy, self-contained adventure that touches the fringes of the story. That could work for me. It could be a lot. Just bring a little bit of a fun, zesty adventure on the small screen. But again, you're right. I think there's sometimes a pushback against that. Maybe just call the show Han Solo, a filler story, and people would.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good discussion to have about different tastes and changing cultural expectations and all that kind of stuff. I'm really glad that you brought up Enfys Nest because yes, I would also be happy with an Enfys Nest limited series, and I think that also, like Kira versus Maul, might answer some of that desire for connections because if that money that Han delivers is the lifeblood of something new. How does she connect to Saw? How does she connect to Bail and Mon Mothma? Obviously there's a possibility of her showing up in the Cassian Andor series, but an Enfys Nest series focusing on her, she's the main character, would still have that it ties to other storytelling, it ties to other canon potential that I think would excite people, as well as being just great to see and learn more about her.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Good point. Well, we'll see. Maybe Ron Howard will just find a way to push it forward, or just at least go on podcasts and tell us it's not going forward. But man, wouldn't it be cool? So there you go. Final news: we got merch. It's a Mando Monday, and also we got more merch. If y'all missed Star Wars Celebration, just the community, just the hanging out, just the high-priced hotel rooms, and the merchandise. Don't worry. They're still rolling out the merch, and ticket holders to Star Wars Celebration can get access on November 13th, everyone else on November 20th, to a new line of Star Wars Celebration merchandise. Some highlights from me, Joseph, include the Armor work shirt, like the gas station work shirt with the armor, classic VHS notebook thing. I might be getting those ones. I love the Star Wars is for everyone shirt. Just kind of a red with some black text. I really like that one there. And I might be needing the Mudhorn egg plush Suka. That might have to come home with me.
Yeah, that's a hell of a thing to have a plush doll of. That's got the double just enjoyment of it's a plush doll, and this isn't just bonkers that this exists, right?
I don't really need it. I really think I need it.
I know. I love Suka so much. I'm thinking that might really be a thing I need to purchase. And then when we get past this virus, and people are coming back over to my apartment to record a podcast, and they see that and like, the hell is that? It'll be a good conversation piece. I'm with you there on those VHS notebooks. I think I got to pick that up. I wear Converse all the time, so those resistance shoes, that's a good one for me. Maybe the Haas Snow Globe. I love the Cloud City lamp. I was so excited for the Star Wars is for Everyone shirt. But then I noticed that, one of the O's is the First Order insignia, which, a part of me is like, yeah, everyone. But I can't read it now. I can't see it without hearing Huck scream it. Star Wars is for everyone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, okay. I'm someone who has a lot of Imperial insignias on hats and sometimes feels bad wearing those in public. I don't know. Okay. Interesting. I didn't notice that. Maybe I'll scroll down and get myself the Babu Frick droid repair t-shirt instead.
Those are all great too, and I love them. A lot of great options, and some super weirdness with Mando Monday too, in a fun way.
Yeah, let's go to some Mando Monday. They've been doing this. We did get a Frog Mom character poster release too. That was good. We got some cool stuff. The Black Series Mandalorian helmet. Those are big and life size, and I don't really get those, but that looks good. We got some Baby Yoda merch. Of course, the Child Premium Plush Bundle. We got a lot of that. Some Mando collection shirts. But Joseph, I think feel free to talk about anything you want here, but I think we got to focus a little bit on the Child with Egg Canister Funko Pop now released to the world, that was leaked to the world. I did remember seeing this before the show, but here it is now, and now we get it.
Yeah, and if you aren't caught up with the Mandalorian, maybe skip forward 2 minutes. Yeah, it's amazing. This is again what I really like about Star Wars. What I like about Funko Pop is these sort of, frankly, just weird moments, because I really like in this latest episode, I love the Child wanting to eat them eggs. It is, to me, great dark comedy. It's sad. That lady says these eggs are the last of her personal line. I don't think all of the frog people's lines, but her personal line. They're super important to her. So there's this great tension, and it's really dark comedy that I think for me makes sense in the episode, because it is an episode about the protecting your young, and it's dark comedy, but it fits the themes. It's not random. It is random to me, of all the toys in the world, I want one of the Child desiring to eat these. I want this really dark joke as a cute action figure thing.
Because when you really focus on the design of the face, the sculpt of the face, he's got his mouth open in anticipation of a meal. His little hands are leaning forward like me finding a prepackaged sandwich at a gas station. This is this speaks. This speaks.
Yeah. This is why, I love I got some Funko Pops of heroes and everything. That's great. But I love the Funko Pops of the Emperor or Maul, who look like they're furious that they are a Funko Pop of how dare you do this to my image?
This is great. Yeah. At my, speaking of my 7-Eleven nearby, they got a lot of Mandalorian Funko Pops, and they got a few with the Baby Yoda one. They got the bone broth one. And because I go to 7-Eleven quite a lot, folks. The last 3 times I've been there, I've just stared at it to where the employees have been like, "Do you want it?" Literally have asked me, "Do you want it?" And I've been like, no. Which means, if my history serves in my toy buying past, it means I'll probably come away with it next week. Just because I've stopped the Funko Pop collecting, just a room and allowance money issues, but I just need the bone broth one. And now I'm looking at this. I'm like, yep, I will probably take every Yoda Baby Yoda Child Funko Pop that they release every year that's specific and weird. I think
yeah. We'll see if they can top this for specific and weird.
Specific and weird. Indeed. Anything else that you must have from this Mando Monday, Joseph?
No, I must contain myself is what I must do. So I'm kind of happy. I'm happy when I see some products that maybe other people want and I don't. What a relief for me.
What a relief indeed. All right, we're looking done looking at our news there. Good stuff, man. That Leslie Headland interview. Glad it showed up. Great job. Fantastic job. Fantastic, Frankie, on that interview with Leslie Headland. We're going to take a quick break, but before we do, we're going to have an audiobook we think you should try out on us. Joseph, what do we got?
We are recommending Bloodline by Claudia Gray. Why? Because it's very good. And I think it's one of the more important books for sort of Star Wars timeline and big picture canon storytelling. So Bloodline by Claudia Gray.
Absolutely. Download your free audiobook today at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook right now. Quick break, we'll reset, and on the other side, we have your questions here on ForceCenter.